Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pressing Matters. I'm Scott. Thank you for tuning in. Happy New Year. Today is the first day of the year, and I'm sorry I've been away for a little bit. I did have COVID, and thankfully it was mild, but I was kind of out of commission for 10 days or so. And I'm back, and I'm negative, and I'm feeling fine. So thank goodness for that. This is a video that I've been wanting to do for a while. It is on Daft Punk, Random Access Memories. And this is an album that I saw in the racks and stuff years ago. And always was intrigued with the cover, but for some reason I was into other music at the time and I never really took the time to explore it. And I often will peruse the top 50 sellers at, say, Acoustic Sounds. And, you know, they list their top sellers, and of course they're all audiophile-oriented offerings. And I kept seeing Daft Punk show up in that list. And I thought, well, that's strange. I didn't know it was an audiophile type album. And I did a little more research and I said, you know, let me get this and hopefully I'll like it. I have no idea. So I did. I picked up the currently available version a couple of months ago and I did an initial listen and I was like, I wanted to do a review on it. And I just couldn't formulate enough to say about it at that time. But with this little break for COVID, I spent a lot of time listening to it. And I have a little more to say. First of all, this is a release by Columbia. Standard Columbia label, but they're 180 gram pressings. It's done in a beautiful gatefold, and it includes a booklet, which is very important because there's a lot of information about this album. This is a big production, and I had no idea how involved it was, but there is a huge cast of characters here, all contributing to this, and it is a masterpiece of production. There's no question about that. And I can see why audiophiles really, some audiophiles have really liked it because the sound is extremely impressive. Extremely impressive. This is kind of retro disco flavored and inspired music. But it's very, you know, electronic. It's kind of like the beginning of the Euro disco movement with synthesizers. It kind of harkens back to that. Giorgio Moroder, who is also featured on the album, pioneered that sound. And here they take it into a modern direction. But the two forces behind Daft Punk, and I'll try to pronounce their names correctly because I've never heard them pronounced, but Thomas Bangalter and Guy-Manuel de Homem-Christo. So they are the masterminds behind this, and they are joined by, let me just refer to the book, Panda Bear, who I didn't know who that was, but Julian Casablancas, Todd Edwards, DJ Falcon, Chili Gonzalez, Giorgio Moroder, Nile Rodgers, of course, I know those two. Paul Williams, I know from his soft rock work in the 70s. And Pharrell Williams, who I'm somewhat familiar with. They do vocals and guitar and so forth. There's many musicians throughout the album. There's also orchestra and chorus. Um, just like a big production. Some of the studios used, let me see if I can find that. Yeah. Are Gang Recording Studios in Paris, Henson Recording Studios in Hollywood, Conway Recording Studios in Hollywood, Electric Lady Studios in New York, and Capitol Studios in Hollywood. The original mastering was done by Bob Ludwig at Gateway Mastering. I didn't see his initials on these pressings. I think maybe there was an initial pressing that he mastered. This one, I did not find the typical RL in the dead wax. But no matter, the sound was really impressive. Very impressive. Deep bass, just gorgeous synthesizer, a lot of space, big soundstage, big soundscapes, and deep groove, like throughout most of the album. The one thing that struck me when I first started listening to this that kind of turned me a little off, and it took a little getting used to, was the vocals are all processed, synthesized vocal, sounds sort of robotic. It's meant to sound strange and alien. And I guess that's on the cuts that Daft Punk has vocals on. So they don't use their normal voice. They use a vocoder or some kind of processor to synthesize the voice. And I thought that was a little weird. But it kind of goes with the theme of the music and the style of the music. Very futuristic sounding. So there's that. Many of the cuts, though, do have live vocals by Pharrell and Paul Williams. Todd, what was his name? Sorry. Todd Edwards does vocals on one. And Panda Bear. And so so it's a nice balance of both, normal vocals and these synthesized vocals. So I made some notes of some of the cuts and some highlights that I thought were really impressive. It starts off with quite a bang, a big fanfare, and the first cut is called Give Life Back to Music. And immediately you can sense Nile Rodgers' presence on this cut. It's very obvious when he's involved with a song. He's not on all of them, but that typical groove that you remember and sound that you remember with Chic back in the late 70s, early 80s. You hear that kind of sound, that kind of groove, and Nile Rodgers is on that cut. That one was a nice upbeat kind of song, and I liked it very much. Game of Love was very solemn. It has a treated vocal, but it's kind of a sad song. I mean, a lot of these songs are about alienation and loneliness and a lost love, and those cuts that are a little more down tempo can be a little sad, I thought. The pace picks back up to probably the highlight of the album, which is called Giorgio by Moroder. It starts with an interview with Giorgio talking about his origins and getting into music. And it's fascinating and very interesting. It's short. And there's music percolating underneath and starting to sound like a typical Moroder track. And that is an instrumental after that, and it's wonderful. It sounds so good, and it's so interesting and upbeat and reminiscent of the Moroder sound. I loved it. It was really good. Then we have another downbeat, down-tempo track called Within. Again, kind of sad lyrics and just kind of a melancholy sound. Instant Crush, again, similar type of thing. Kind of downbeat and alienated kind of sound. I thought it was a little sad as well. The last cut on disc 1 picks up the pace. It's called "Give Yourself to Dance," and that, features Pharrell on vocals and Nile Rodgers, and again, it's kind of picks it up and ends the first disc on a bang. The second disc gets a little bit more interesting. There's more use of orchestra and chorus interspersed throughout this disc. The first cut is called "Touch," and I put a star next to it because I really, really liked it. It's odd for sure. It has a very strange, spacey intro. Paul Williams sings the lyrics, and they're kind of like, it reminded me of like a Broadway type of lyric, that kind of thing. But gorgeous orchestration. The choir comes in towards the end and just elevates the song to a real height, and it's one of the highlights of the album for sure. Very moving, very beautiful. The way the orchestra and the chorus come in and are mixed in are subtle but very, very effective. I love that cut. It's like a mini symphony almost. There's several parts, different parts, and very interesting. Get Lucky kind of goes back to that funky Nile Rodgers sound. He's on that, joined by Pharrell on vocals. So that is another highlight of the second disc. Definitely a fantastic groove. Very, very, very good. Sound is nice, deep, funky. The bass is subterranean in points. Really, really fun to crank this record on those type of cuts. So the rest, Beyond was the next one. It's this kind of a sensual down-tempo groove. I thought it was pretty good, but again, it has a processed vocal, which kind of turns me a little off. Motherboard was like a beautiful meandering instrumental, very spacey. It has a break, a very freaky break with some heavy deep bass and synthesizer, and a lot of spacey effects, synthesizer moog type effects towards the end, like water and splashing, and it's very, very interesting, very stunning actually. I put a check mark next to that. I really thought that was a good cut. The rest of the tracks, Fragment in Time, Todd Edwards sings. Not too special, I didn't think. I prefer the unprocessed vocals, and his is unprocessed, but for some reason that didn't really grab me either. Doing It Right is Panda Bear. It's a naturally somewhat processed vocal, but what really stands out on that track is a subterranean bass, and like very, very effectively pins down that song. The last track, I'm surprised. It's called Contact. It starts with like a NASA recording of Apollo or something like that, and you hear the astronauts talking about the Earth, and I thought it really didn't end the record on the highest note. I think it could have been different, but it didn't do it for me. So overall, I find it to be a little bit of a sad album, a little bit alienating, but glimmers of hope and highlights of joy about music, about life, about dancing, about love. So it's got, I'd say, 4 solid highlights. The Giorgio by Moroder, the intro, Give Life to Music, Touch, Get Lucky, maybe Motherboard. It's a 2-disc set. It's not strong all the way through, but it's very varied, and it really is a masterpiece of its kind. I don't think there's really anything like it that I've ever heard before, except the things that it harkens back to, like the old Sylvester songs. Like even it almost sounds like Supernature on Giorgio by Moroder, or I Feel Love, or something like that. So it's a mixed bag, but I think if you like that type of music, you should definitely check it out. I can say the pressings for a commercial Columbia release were excellent. Not a sound on them. Very quiet, beautiful, and it really sounds impressive. On my stereo, I'm sure on anything it's going to sound really, really impressive. And I think that's why it got a place in the top 50 for all those months on Acoustic Sounds. So that's my take on Random Access Memories by Daft Punk. I'd love to hear what you think. If you have it, or if you've heard it and have any comments, please leave them in the section below. I'd be really curious to see what you think about it. And until next time, this is Scott for the Pressing Matters. Thank you and have a great day.